What's up, guys? I'm back after a whole week of exhaustion. I had my finals, and Alhamdulillah, I did really, really good in my finals, and I'm really, inshallah, my GPA will be above 3.9 or maybe 4. I'm hoping for 4 GPA, which will be a huge accomplishment for me if I manage to get 4 GPA, which is going to be a really huge accomplishment for me. So I hope and I request all of you guys to pray for yourselves and to pray for me as well, that all of us get to pray. You guys should pray that all of us get really good marks and all of us pass this our first semester with really good GPA as well. So this week, as I am not going to the university, we have off. So what I have decided that this week I'll be discussing all the papers, all the exam. The papers we solved in our exam. So I'm going to solve each paper individually on each day from Monday to Friday. So today our first paper was of programming subject. So what I'm going to do is on Monday today I'm going to solve the programming paper, and then tomorrow I'm going to solve the paper which we had on Tuesday. So coming towards our paper, that was a programming paper, programming exam. So the questions that were asked from us in the paper were: number one was Fibonacci sequence. So what we were supposed to do is, the question was saying that you have to write, uh, you have to uh, you have to make a program which prints first 10 first 10 numbers of the Fibonacci sequence. And what is a Fibonacci sequence? Fibonacci sequence is, for example, I write 0, so it starts from 0. For example, I call this A1, and then A2 is going to be our 1. So Fibonacci sequence is the sum of the previous two digits. So this A3 is going to be A2 plus A1. So 0, 1, and then A3 is going to be the sum of 0 and 1, so that will be 1. And now now you have A3 and A2, so A4 is going to be the sum of A3 plus A2. So that is, A3 and A2 is 1 and 1, so 1 plus 1 is 2. And then the process continues on up till n numbers. So it's up to you where do you want to end this sequence. But in the question, we were asked to end it on so the 10th Fibonacci number is, so the Fibonacci sequence is 1 0 1 1 2 3 5, and 3 plus 5 is 5 6 7 8. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. 5 plus 8 is 13. So 8 and 13 plus 8 is your 21. So 20 and 21 and 13 is your 31 34. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So there you have it, 10 Fibonacci, first 10 numbers, first 10 digits of the Fibonacci sequence. But what we were supposed to do is, we were supposed to make a program out of it. So what we had to do is, I'm not going to write everything from start to end. That means hash include and the return 0 and the using namespace std. I'm just going to start from int main. int main. So our first question was this one, and now what we were supposed to do is to declare 3 variables. So int no actually 4 variables. So int a1, so you can call it a1, a2, so you need 2 numbers, and then you need a variable to store the sum. So you have to include you have to include the sum, and then you have to also declare a variable for the counter, so that will be I for your loop. So first what you do is so you declare a1 equals a1 equals 0, a2 equals 1, and then what you do is you see out. So first you have to see out the first two numbers, otherwise you won't be able to uh, you won't be able to store the sum of those two numbers in the variable sum. You have to declare, you have to output the first two numbers. You have to do that. So see out, I say see out a1, and then this, for an empty space, or a space, then I output a2, and then after I have outputted these two numbers, what I do is I declare, I make a for loop. What this for loop does is for I equals 3, because I've already output two numbers of the Fibonacci sequence. I'm going to start my loop from the number 3, because I have already output two numbers. So when for I equals 3, I is less than or equal to, and I want this Fibonacci sequence to end at number 10, means you have to print just 10 Fibonacci numbers. So 10 and I plus plus, which means I'm incrementing my I. So if once you make this loop, what you're going to do is so you're going to say equals sum equals a1 plus a2. So this is going to store your sum. Then what you're going to do is swap the value of a2, means store the value of a2 in a1. So a1 equals a2, and then what you're going to do is to store the value of a sum. So a2, store the value of sum in a2, and then you're going to end the loop right here. So it's going to output and also this is return 0, and also here see out sum, and it's going to see out every sum it gets, it evaluates. So when so you output these two numbers, then the flow of control is transferred here to the for loop. And what this for loop does, it starts the counter at 3. So when I equals 3, I is less than 10. So it evaluates the statements in between the loop. So sum, it calculates the sum of a1 and a2, it stores it in the variable sum, and then it stores the value of a2 in a1, and the value of sum in a2, and then it again checks the condition. It first increments the counter, and then it again checks the condition. If the condition is true, it again stores the value, stores the sum of the swapped numbers, means the swapped values of a1 and a2 with a2 and sum, and then it's going to calculate the sum again, and after each execution it's going to see out the sum. So after these two numbers, it's going to output the sum after a space, and in that way you're going to get first 10 Fibonacci numbers. Now our second question was about, the question was to write the why do we use functions, so the importance of functions in programming, why do we use them, the advantages. And with that, what we were supposed to do was with that we were supposed to differentiate. We were supposed to differentiate between value parameter, so the value passed by copy, so means value parameter, and we were supposed to differentiate between value parameters and reference parameters, means the value passed by reference. So it's a pretty easy question. It was just asking you about the importance of functions. The importance of function is, it divides the program into many manageable pieces, and many people can work on many different functions simultaneously, at once. And also when you're working on a single functions, you're just worried about that specific function, to debug it, to write it again, or to find any mistakes, rather than caring about the whole program. Also, using functions, so you can call it anywhere. I have explained, I have a whole I have a whole video on functions, so you can go check it out as well. In functions, you can call them anywhere. You can use them again and again, as many times as you'd like. uh, um, and instead, if you don't want to use functions, then you'll have to write the code again and again if you want to use that code again. So functions save you time, as well as it saves you the energy to make a program. The differentiation between the value parameter and reference parameter, I have a video on this as well. What is value parameter? So in value parameters, the value is passed by a copy. So the formal parameters receives a copy of the value of the actual parameter, while in the reference parameter, the formal parameter just receives the address of the value of the value of the actual parameter. So it the benefit of a reference parameter, that it saves you time for the execution of the program, and it also saves you some memory, because it's just copying the address rather than having a whole copy of the value of the actual parameter. Our third question was a program to output uh, a series of numbers, so like 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 and 1 2 3 4 5. So our objective was to output this using nested for loops, or using nested while loops, or whatever. So whichever loop you wanted to use, there was no restriction, but you had to use nested. So you had to nest the loops. You had to nest a loop inside another loop to make this program. So it was pretty easy as well. So I'm going to write from int main and then, so first you had to declare, you had to make two for loops. You had to declare two for loops, and inside for loop I say that int I equals equals 1 if I is less. So you have a total of 5. You have a total of 5 lines, means 5 separate lines. So I'm going to set it to 5. I is less than or equal to 5, I plus plus, and inside this loop I'm going to declare another for loop which sets a counter j int j equals 1. And now here's the tricky part, where you set the j, if j is less than or equal to I j plus plus. I'm going to show you what it does in a second. And what you do inside is you see out j with a space, with a space, and right here after this second for loop, after this nested for loop, you see out for every execution of this loop. After the execution ends, when the control is going to be transferred to the first for loop, what you do is you declare, or you output an empty space, or an empty one space which is going to take care of not mixing up the numbers. So it's going to display them with a space in between them. So this was your whole program, and this is pretty easy. This is like a piece of cake. And also we were discussing this program in the WhatsApp group, and it's very severe coincidence that we got the same program in the paper as well. That's very lucky for us. So I have set the counter I to 1. So I've declared this I inside the scope of this for loop. So that means we cannot use I anywhere outside the loop. It has a local scope inside this for loop. So for int I equals 1, so for every execution of the outer loop, this the inner loop executes it completes for every execution of the outer loop, inner loop completes all of its executions. So for example, if I equals 1, this j is going to be executed until the condition is false, and then the control is again going to be transferred to the first loop. So for I equals 1, j is also equal 1, and when j is less than or equal to I, so in this case j is equal to I, it will be the output will be just 1 with a space, and then the condition is going to be false because then j is 2 and 2 is not less than or equal to 1. Then the control is going to be transferred to the outside the for loop where I had declared the cout with a space. So it's going to not a space, it was endl. So we want to start the next series from another line. So the cursor is going to be moved towards the second line, and then I plus plus means I is incremented, so I will become 2, and then this second for loop is going to be executed again. So now when it will be 2, it is going to output 1 and 2, and then the cursor is again going to be moved to the third line, and then it's going to follow a pattern of 1 2 3 4 and 1 2 3 4 5. It's going to follow a pattern like this, and this way your objective is complete, and you have got a program which outputs a series of numbers like this with the nested for loop. Then we had a program to of an array. So what we were supposed to do is to copy an array in another array, and first we had to prompt the user to input 5 integers, and then we had to copy those integers in a reverse order. We had to copy that array in a reverse order into another array, and then we were supposed to output the second array which we had copied from the first array. We had to show the output of that array. So that was we did not study this program, or we did not study how to copy an array in the class, but that was not difficult at all. So it was, what I did, I used 3 for loops for this program. It was all logical. So first what you were supposed to do is int main, and then you were supposed to declare 2 arrays. So array 1 4, because we had to prompt the user to input 5 integers, and array, the location of every array is, starts from 0. So 0 1 2 3 4 makes a total of 5. So array 1 and array 2 is also going to be 4. Now what I did is that for the first for loop, I int I equals 0, and if I is less than or equal to 4, I plus plus, and then array. Okay, so before that, yes, alright. So cin array 1 I. So what it's going to do is the user is going to input for every component in the array, and the user is going to input a total of 5 integers. Then I declared another for loop which was int I equals 0, I is less than or equal to 4, I plus plus. And what I did is I copied the array in the same order, but in the question it was given that you had to copy the array in the reverse order, and I hope that doesn't make that much of a difference. But what you can do is you can include another, so int j. So here int I can be 4 greater than or equal to 0, and I minus minus, and what you do is you declare another counter here, so int j equals 1. So for every loop, when a loop is going to be executed, so array 2 j, so array 0, what happened to me, equals array 1 I, and then j is going to be incremented, and this loop is going to be finished. So this way, what's going to happen, that the array 1 is going to be copied in array 2 in the reverse order, and then after that you were going to display the for I equals 1, I is less than or equal to 4, int I plus plus, and this, sorry, yes, uh, and array 2, cout array 2 I. So this was how you copy one array in the reverse order in the second array, and then you output that array in the uh, to the as an output. And then after that we had a question, we had to make a function. Of and I think it was named as uh, uh, it was named as baller avg, so baller average. And then what it did was it calculated the average of the baller, and what the user was supposed to do is to input the number of balls and number of scored. And we had to make this function, and control shifted to this function, and then it was a float. The return type of this function was supposed to be float, because average is always in a decimal format. And then you were going to call this function in the main program, and it was supposed to give an output of the average of the average of the baller. Alright guys, thank you very much. I'm running out of time, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.